One might say ducks fly together. Well, today the New York Jets fly together. Right there, Mike White wearing the Charlie Conway captain's Mighty Ducks jersey as the Jets take on the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. There's a shot at the scene in Minneapolis. Welcome into Pregame Central, presented by Bud Light. The Jets back on the road, taking on the 9-2 Minnesota Vikings. I'm Ethan Greenberg, joined alongside Quincy Enunwa right here in the BetMGM studio. Anthony Becht will join us shortly. We'll check in with Caroline Hendershot and Eric Allen in Minnesota in a bit. But Quincy, it's December 4th. For the first time since a team you were on in 2015, the New York Jets are playing meaningful football games in December. What is the vibe of a team when you're a part of a playoff race? How critical is this month for the New York Jets?
Yeah, I mean, you turn the heat up just a little bit more when it's this time of the year, right? When you know you can make it to the playoffs, every game just becomes that much more important. I think back to that Patriots game. We were so excited to win that game because we knew we were one step closer to making it to the playoffs. So I know these guys are really ready to go.
Jets are 7-4. Some big matchups today. All eyes going to be on that guy right there, Mike White. And fans, this is your chance to be a part of our show with your all in or not today. So here you have it. Mike White, that guy on the screen, will throw for at least 275 passing yards. Make sure to go vote. We're going to see the results at the end of the show. But let's get out of the tunnel and let's bring in Anthony Becht, because the Minnesota Vikings right now, Anthony, they're 9-2, but it feels like maybe they're not getting the type of respect that a team with that type of record has. So are you buying what Minnesota's selling?
I am, yeah. I think they're most disrespected football team in the NFL. This is a team that, quite frankly, has always been good and competitive. They're finding ways to put it together. They have a great combination of talent at the wide receiver and tight end position, upper echelon of the NFL. They have a tailback that's one of the best, most dynamic running backs in the league when he can get going. And Kirk Cousins has kind of been a conundrum a little bit since he's been there. I think a lot of folks have been kind of wishy-washy on exactly what he brings to the table. But I think when things are clicking and he's hot, he's one of the more dangerous quarterbacks in the NFL. It's a big challenge for the defense. The defense has been outstanding this year, and I think that that's going to be the matchups to watch across the board to see how they do against the offense. The obvious holes here for Vikings is the defense. They're not dynamic. They're not great. They're not upper echelon of the NFL. They kind of just try not to get beat with the big plays throughout the game, over the top, keep everything in front of them, make sure their offense has a chance to stay in the game. You go back the last couple games they played, in particular that Dallas game several weeks ago, it got ugly quick because of the holes in their defense, and hopefully today the Jets can find some.
Yeah, we're going to break down this Minnesota Vikings defense and this Jets offense in full, but Quincy, Anthony just kind of mentioned it. Kirk Cousins, Anthony used the word conundrum. I'm not going to use that word, but he obviously has a very talented supporting cast with guys like Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen's an 1,000-yard receiver, Dalvin Cook, 6th in the league in rushing right now, but Kirk Cousins, 7th in the NFL in passing yards. Do you think he's playing like a top 10 quarterback right now, or is he more of a product of his environment?
That's a good question. It's hard to tell. I think if you just watch the film, you can tell that he's definitely loving his target in Justin Jefferson. He goes to that guy no matter what. And that's a guy that's super talented, uber talented, right? Whatever you want to call him, he's one of the best receivers in the league, and he knows that. So he goes to him every time. But as far as Kirk Cousins, he's a little challenged when it comes to pressure. That's one thing that he has to kind of work on. You look at the Dallas game, 7 sacks that game, and that was a tough game for him. Look for the Jets to try to bring that pressure to him this week, because if you can put pressure on Kirk Cousins, it's going to make it harder for him to get to his guys.
And it's a great point. Left tackle for the Minnesota Vikings, Christian Darrisaw, will not play in today's matchup. He was ruled out with a concussion, so that could bode well for the New York Jets, especially with the way that the Jets like to have pressure. Now, Quincy, I'm going to go back to you about Mike White, because obviously he's going to be under the spotlight. He's coming off a fantastic performance, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was against a banged-up Chicago Bears defense, who lost some players in that game like Eddie Jackson. Statistically, the Minnesota Vikings have the worst passing defense in the NFL. They're 31st in total defense. What are realistic expectations for a guy that I will say is just making his 5th NFL start?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Jets are really counting on this guy to do exactly what he's been doing, and that's tough to say. Like, how often are you going to count on a guy that's only played 5 career games? It's not too often, but I think, if you think about the way that he's played, last year he had a few games that were good, and then he had some injuries that kind of slowed him down. We're hoping that this year he's able to kind of keep that momentum going, because if you got a guy that has a confidence that he's building right now, he's got players around him wearing his shirt, he's continuing to make plays. He does exactly what the offense asks him to do. And that's what you want from your quarterback. A guy that's going to go out there and not try to do too much, not try to make the play, let the play happen. And that's what he's doing. And I think if he can do that and continue to do that, then he'll be the guy for the Jets going forward.
Yeah, we'll see, obviously, what happens in a couple hours. But, Anthony, same question to you. This is obviously a good matchup on paper. So what are realistic expectations in your eyes?
Well, listen, it's not a simple process to play the quarterback position. But in speaking of terms of myself and Quincy, who did it at the highest level, what makes the game simple is the preparation and the understanding of the tasks that they're asking you to do in that game. When you go through the week and the process and you feel comfortable about the play designs, where the guys are going to be, the healthier line, all those different things, and you prepare yourself for the moment. It seems like to me that the moment is not too big for Mike White, and that really, to me, helps him really go out there and play at a very high level. He's very calm. He looks like he completely understands what's being asked of him. That simplifies your job. Again, speaking in terms of where Quincy were in retrospect of how we did our jobs, but outside of the realm of, this is the hardest position to play, and not to simplify it, but I just think that, with Mike LaFleur and what he tries to do with this offense and talking him again in the offseason, they have specific rules and progressions that they want their quarterback to do within the framework of the play. Stick with them, and they feel like there can be a lot of success because of the pieces they have around them. You obviously want balance. Stay below 30 passes unless the game dictates otherwise. And if you stay within that, I think Mike White becomes the perfect model for what they're looking for now, with a very good defense on the other side.
Kirk Cousins and Mike White, 2 of 7 NFL quarterbacks in league history to have at least 2 games with 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns in their first 5 career starts. Just a little irony there, but now let's go out to Minnesota and let's bring in Caroline Hendershot and Eric Allen for our game day storylines presented by Bud Light. Caroline, EA, I'm sure both of you very excited that the game is inside in the dome, but the Jets are getting a pretty big piece of their defense back today.
Let me start by saying I could not be more thrilled that we are indoors today, because Minnesota is cold, much colder than New York. But yes, the defense are getting a big key back today in Sheldon Rankins. What does this mean for the defense, EA?
Well, it's just another piece up front along that very talented defensive line. You're right about the cold, though. Last night when we got in, we were freezing. It's a little bit better today, but we're in a climate-controlled area, and so are the New York Jets. But Sheldon Rankins, he's an interior penetrator who's also very stout against the run, and the Jets come at you in waves, and Sheldon Rankins is a big piece. Remember, the Jets defense over the last 10 weeks, they've been better than anybody in the National Football League in terms of points allowed per game. Nobody's been doing it better than them so far this season, but they're going to be tested by a potentially very explosive Vikings offense.
And this day, obviously, we cannot not talk about Tyler Conklin's homecoming. It's the place he was drafted to the Minnesota Vikings in 2018. And we talked to him this week, and he said that he's going to be kind of nostalgic, a little emotional, but he's excited to get after it. But how big of an asset is he to this offense?
I think he's huge. You're talking about a guy in his first season with the green and white, 38 receptions, 381 yards receiving, and 3 touchdowns. In context, the last time the Jets had a tight end with 50 catches, 500 yards receiving, that was Dustin Keller in 2011. It's a fascinating dynamic because the Vikings, a new regime here under Kevin O'Connell, and Tyler Conklin was a 5th-round pick in 2018, had a career breakout with the Vikings last year with the 61 catches. Well, they thought they couldn't afford him. He lands with the Jets. He's going to be a central figure on this offense today. But the Vikings needed more production from the tight end position, so they actually traded for T.J. Hawkinson, who the Jets will have to defend against today.
And Conklin added, as excited as he is for today, he knows that U.S. Bank Stadium gets really loud. So he said, just be wary, because we've already in warm-ups heard, you can hear the music, I'm sure, in the background, but we've heard the sound checks and everything. It's going to get really loud today. So he said they can alter their game plan, the Jets, to try and combat that noise level. But yeah, it's going to get really loud here today.
The best way of keeping this place quiet is scoring points, and you guys know that.
Absolutely, and Tyler Conklin was a part of the Minneapolis Miracle. So was Justin Hardy and Sheldon Rankin. So both sides of the winning side of that game and the losing side represented from the Jets. That place can get very loud. But this matchup, we haven't really talked about it. Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Justin Jefferson. This is another big matchup for the Jets defense. What do you expect from that matchup today?
So I talked to Sauce Gardner this week, and I asked him, there's a lot of eyes on you and DJ Reed guarding Justin Jefferson. And he said, obviously, Justin Jefferson is a playmaker, but this offense as a whole has so many offensive weapons. So all 11 players on the field have to do their job. They each have a job, and they just have to take care of it. It comes down to that same theme that we've heard all year. Just execute on the play call, and just continue to take care of it, and the rest takes care of itself. When I asked him, how do you shut down a team with that many offensive weapons? He just said, just keep the main thing, the Robert Saleh added.
Yeah, Robert Saleh said this week that he'll take his guys, Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, up against anybody. Justin Jefferson, he's had more yards receiving in his first 3 years than anybody in the National Football League. 6 of his last 8 games, he's gone over 100 yards receiving. But, fellas, the Jets have done a great job against number 1 receivers this year, whether that be Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, or Stephon Diggs. This is another one in a long list. Fascinating matchup on the outside with Thielen and Justin Jefferson against Sauce Gardner, who leads the National Football League with 14 PDs, and DJ Reed, who's having an all-pro type season for the Green and White.
Great stuff from Minnesota. We'll check in with you in a bit. EA just talked about it, though. I do want to bring this up. The Jets have seen Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, and Stephon Diggs. Chase held to 29 yards on 6 receptions. He had a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, although played with Skylar Thompson, that's the asterisk there, 7 catches for 47 yards. Stephon Diggs had 93 yards, the most of the bunch. Those 3 guys combined have averaged 9.4 yards per reception and have combined for 169 total yards, which is pretty darn good from a Jets perspective. But you got to come out to MetLife Stadium on Sunday, December 18th at 1 p.m. to see the New York Jets host the Detroit Lions, presented by Prism Panini. Lock in your seats at nyjets.com/tickets. All right, it's time for our Sunday Spotlight here on Pregame Central, presented by Bud Light. Anthony, we're going to start with you. AB, who is or what is your Sunday Spotlight?
Yeah, I think I'm going to just continue to tag on what you guys just talked about with Sauce, DJ Reed going against this receiving core of the Vikings. This is an incredible challenge. You look at Thielen, he's a guy that's very technically sound. Justin Jefferson, again, has really just dominated the league. Very quick off the line of scrimmage, knows when to throw his hands up. Not a lot of dead giveaways with him. The one thing I think when you watch this is the length and the speed of Sauce Gardner and what he brings to the table. He's very difficult to manage when you're a quarterback trying to throw in spaces and holes and in areas down the sidelines because of the length and speed that Sauce has. That's really been the biggest problem. The one thing about Sauce, if you watch him the last couple games, it's just he's so good at staying so close to the receiver, just understanding when that moment, when the ball's in the air and he has an opportunity to make a play, staying within the technique of his position, not getting too handsy. It's all a timing thing. And I've never played the position, nor could I ever do it. But I also know just watching it and seeing in those moments, he does it as good as anybody, just bearing very close. Because at the end of the day, guys, Justin Jefferson is kind of like that guy in the league that's going to get those kind of calls, okay, versus a guy that he would normally go against maybe throughout the season versus other teams. So it's going to be a great matchup, a popcorn matchup for me just to watch these guys go.
Here's a number for you. Justin Jefferson averages 12.1 yards per target in man coverage. That's the best in the league. Sauce Gardner allows a league low 2.9 yards per target. That's going to be a popcorn matchup, like Anthony said. Before we get to your spotlight, Quincy, with a guy like Justin Jefferson, when the play's never really over until it's over because this guy just makes ridiculous catches, like the catch in Buffalo. Right. What do you have to do at the catch point and through to make sure that the ball doesn't end up in Jefferson's hands?
I mean, you got to do exactly what we've seen Sauce do all year. And that's one thing I continue to praise him about is that he finishes plays. Even when he's out of position, he does a great job of finishing through the hands of the receiver. And that's the best way to get this done. You have to have a really strong-handed receiver to make the plays that Justin Jefferson has. So it's going to be a great test for Sauce because he does a great job, as I said before, of getting his hands through the receiver's hands and separating him from the ball. So I'm going to be really excited. Just like you said, popcorn matchup. I want to see how these guys kind of battle, as well as DJ Reed, because that's a guy that's quietly under the radar. He doesn't get talked about as much, but that guy's also performing on the other side. There's two lockdown corners over there. So no matter what side Justin Jefferson goes to, he's going to have a test.
This is a strength-on-strength matchup for the New York Jets. And when the Jets played the Bills and Stephon Diggs, it was DJ Reed who broke up that pass late in the game, to his credit. Quincy, where are you going for your Sunday spotlight?
Yeah, so every week I say the Jets are a fourth quarter team. They finish strong. They did it from the preseason on through the season. So I'm going to continue that here, the fourth quarter. But I think the Jets might have met their match, right? You look at Minnesota defense, right? They're letting up 3.9 points per game. That's fourth in the league, while the Jets are only giving up 3 points per game. That's first in the league. So that's two great fourth quarter defenses. Then we flip to the offense, right? This is what we always say. The Jets in the fourth quarter, they're going to score those points. They're going to bring themselves back in the game, or they're going to continue to stretch the lead. But also, the Minnesota is number one in the league, 8.5 points per game. I mean, that's amazing, right? The Jets are 7.6. So we talk about it every week. The Jets offense, they're scoring points. The Jets defense, they're stopping people from scoring points. So it's going to be a real test here. I'm excited to see. You really got to stay for the whole game. You can't leave in the halftime. You can't leave in third quarter. You got to watch through the fourth quarter because you never know what's going to happen with these two teams.
The Minnesota Vikings, you can see it on your screen right now, 93 fourth quarter points. To your point, they lead the league in fourth quarter points per game. They have the Jets have a plus 51 margin in the fourth quarter. That's first. The Vikings second with 50. These are two very good teams that finish late in games. The Vikings also start fast with 49 points on opening drives. Anthony, on the road, how critical is it for the Jets to either get out to a fast start or to slow down Minnesota off the jump?
Well, I think the fast start is important because you're in an environment that's going to be a distraction. You know, it's going to be loud. You're going to have to be in sync. If Vikings can come out to shoot fast, they get the ball for some reason to start the game, they score early, you're batting a lot. Now, does that mean that, the players won't be able to play well? Absolutely not. I mean, there's other loud stadiums, there's other places. This is why these guys are professional athletes. Also, I think what's going to be key is before the half, there's a management of clock and understanding. Let's not give Kirk Cousins the ball towards the end. I think a lot of those points, if you probably look at in the second quarter, in the fourth quarter that the Vikings have scored, have come in those crucial end-of-game drives, end-of-half drives. So managing the clock and making sure, okay, if we have the ball, maximizing the fact that they don't have a lot to get it done. And even on the back end, if we're all assuming this is going to be a tight game, it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. Kirk Cousins has a lot of experience at the end of games trying to get his team situated, whether it be a field goal or scoring opportunity. Managing the clock throughout the game, making sure you maximize those spots will be key. Every second matters, especially in December, guys.
Kirk Cousins has 5 passing touchdowns in the fourth quarter in victories in 2022, to Anthony's point. That's the most in the league, and I'm going with that guy for my Sunday spotlight, Mike White. Mike Efficient White, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the effing stands for, Mike Effing White. Well, I'm going with Mike White because here's the thing. We saw the passing game come alive last week for the Jets, and this is a climate control situation. Here's just a fun fact. It has nothing to do with the game, but last year in Mike White's second start for the Jets, it was also in a dome. It was at Indianapolis. He led the Jets down the field, scored a touchdown, hurts his elbow, lose feeling. It comes back after the game. He played well for the one series, and it was a big what-if moment. Well, not that this will answer that, but this is another good test for the Jets. The Vikings, good turnover numbers, tied for 5th in the NFL, defensively speaking, but they give up a lot of yards. So Mike White should have a good game, at least statistically. But for more on today's matchup, let's hear from Jets head coach Robert Saleh.
You know, he's there's those reports of Coach Belichick talking about how he just knows what he just knows, and he studies so much tape, and he lines guys up, and he does it in a way where he has enough time to be able to dissect the offense, and he just, one little clue, you're off by an inch, he's going to find it, and he's going to get to the ball before you can get there, and a very, very intelligent football player, and he's playing fast. He looks really good. You know, he looks fresh. I mean, he still is young, but he looks really good.
An exclusive clip from Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh. It already aired, but every week, 7:30 a.m. on Sunday on CBS 2. But if you want to watch the show, go to NewYorkJets.com. Check out the YouTube page. It lives there. You're watching Pregame Central, presented by Bud Light. Ethan Greenberg, Quincy Enunwa here in the BetMGM studio. So this is what we're going to do now. Let's take a look. It's funny that we're able to say this because the past couple of years we haven't been able to. Let's take a look at the AFC standings and the AFC East. So we're taking a look at the conference right now. There's some big games coming up. The Patriots and Bills already played. The Bills at 9-3, the Patriots at 6-6. But the Dolphins and the Bengals, two huge games if you're a Jets fan, because Miami takes on the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. That game kicks off at 4:05. And then the Bengals take on the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a rematch from the AFC Championship. That'll be in Cincinnati. Both games could have big implications in the standings for the Jets, whether the Jets win or lose. So, Quincy, let's start with you. When you're looking at those games, Dolphins, Niners, Chiefs, Bengals, which one of those teams do you think has a better chance to lose, essentially, between Miami and Cincinnati?
That's a tough one. Dolphins, Niners, Chiefs, Bengals. I don't know. I think it's going to be – those are two great games right there. I think we obviously want the Dolphins to lose. No matter what the competition is, no matter who they're playing, you want the Dolphins to lose. You want them to continue to lose, especially because we play them last. The hope is they continue to lose. We play them in that last game and send ourselves into the playoffs. It's a tough division, right? Every single team is doing well. It's probably the best division in football. Who would have said that in the beginning of the year? Anytime you see any type of matchup, you're always going to want an AFC East team to lose.
There are essentially 9 teams fighting for 7 playoff spots, and the Jets right now have the final wild card spot as we speak right now at 11:22 in the morning. Obviously, a lot can change over the next 6 weeks. A lot can change in a couple hours. Anthony, you think the Bengals have any chance to upset the Chiefs here?
Yeah, 1,000%. Although I'd rather have the Chiefs.
Of course.
Teams like the Titans and the Baltimore Ravens, who are ahead of their divisions, to continue to win and beat the teams underneath them within the division and the conference. As far as the Dolphins are concerned, I actually like the Dolphins and what they're doing offensively versus the 49. I think it's going to be an incredible matchup. It's going to be a matchup of the minds, two coaches that know each other well. That there's always wrinkles within that maybe give an advantage to one or the other. I think Kyle Shanahan right now has proven that all his predecessors, that he owns them. And now let's see how it goes here and see if McDaniel can kind of find a way to kind of get through that, because he's really shown dominance over those coaches that he's coached with in the past that he's played in. But, look, I really think it's tight. I think every single week you're going to see movement. You're going to see changes. I don't think anything's guaranteed. I'd look at this. I'd say that both the underdogs and the Chiefs and the Bengals and the Dolphins have really good chances to win. That's just what it is. But you'd rather have those leaders in the clubhouse right now continue to press on and knock down some of these teams so we can get a little more breathing room across the board. But when you look at it, the Jets still can control their destiny as far as going out there and beating the teams they need to beat, and then worrying about those division opponents when they come up here later in the season.
It's a great point, and if you're a Jets fan, you're wondering what the deal is with the Miami Dolphins, just want to put out there, former Jets tackle Brandon Shell will be starting for the Miami Dolphins, missing Teron Armstead on the left side. Obviously, that is advantage Nick Bosa and company for the San Francisco 49ers. All right, here we go. This is going to be a fun segment. This is a little bit of a trivia question for both of you. So we're going to start with Quincy. The last time these two teams met, Quincy, you were on the team. You did not play in the game. Jets-Vikings 2018. Which Jet led the team in receiving yards?
I want to say Robbie.
See, that's what most people would say. It was Trenton Cannon, the running back for the New York Jets, the rookie at the time. The reason that we want to bring this up, or that I want to bring it up, is because these Jets backs, Breece Hall obviously not in the equation. Michael Carter, listed as doubtful with an ankle injury. Let's assume that he will not play. That means you got Ty Johnson, Bam Knight, and James Robinson in the mix. How critical is it for these guys to be pass catchers today against a defense that doesn't like to give up the big play but will give up the underneath stuff?
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because actually I think it's going to be huge this game. You know, they got a couple guys in the middle. Kendricks, actually, their linebacker, he has a little bit of a challenge moving in space. So I think that these running backs have a opportunity to make a lot of plays. You know, if we can get the ball in space, you can make him miss and pick up some chunk yards. You know, the idea is the defense is going to definitely be looking at our receivers. They're going to make sure that those guys don't make plays, because those are Mike White's guys. But Mike White did a great job last week. He spread the ball around, and so look for him to do that again this week. If he sees the mismatches across the field, it's a great opportunity for him to make those plays.
Anthony Beck, you were on the Jets when the Jets played the Vikings in 2002. Who led the team in tackles on that day?
Oh, you know what? That was on the road, correct?
Oh, it was at MetLife. Or
It
not,
was at MetLife.
It
Okay.
wasn't
You
at
know,
MetLife, but it was at what was MetLife.
It was probably a secondary player.
Okay.
That now that I remember.
All right.
Man, you know, I'm gonna. You know what?
You got to
Was
bring
it-
it back.
Was it Donnie? No, you know what? I don't know. It was a secondary player. It was either D-Rob or
It was
Abraham.
Donnie Abraham. Beck, that's your defensive coordinator at the Battlehawks. It was, in fact, Donnie Abraham. All right, so we got one more question. This is a fun one. The Jets and Vikings played in 2006. There was a Jets player who had a sack that game who was actually drafted by the Vikings. He shares the same name with a current Jets defender. This is multiple choice. Is it A, DJ Reed? Is it B, Quincy Williams? Is it C, CJ Mosley? Or is it D, Tony Adams? Quincy, you go first. You guess.
I feel like Tony Adams is
All
probably
right.
the safest.
Quincy goes Tony Adams. Anthony Beck, who you going?
I'm gonna go the same.
All right. Both say Tony Adams. It is C. C.J. Mosley
What?
was a Vikings drafted player who was then played for the Jets, had a sack in that game. It was his only sack on the year. There are two C.J. Mosleys. Has no implications or relation to the current Jets C.J. Mosley, the team's leading tackler.
odds?
So on that note, let's bring in everybody. Let's go back to Minnesota, bring in Caroline EA for All In or Not today. Obviously, we're going to have to take a look at the standings before we start. Quincy, the champ, 9-2. Anthony, 6.5-5. I'm on a losing streak, 5-6. I'm tied with the fans at 5-6. EA at 4-7. Caroline putting up shop in the basement at 3-8. And so let's just start there, Caroline, in Minnesota. Okay? The Jets will have at least 4 receptions today of 20-plus yards. All in or not today?
Let me say one thing. Someone's got to bring up the rear, and you can't fall off the floor. So I'm going to go all in, obviously, because Minnesota allows 3.9 per game, and last week the Jets had 4. So I'm feeling good. I feel like this is going to be a big game, an explosive game, especially for the offense. So all in. Why not?
Yeah, I get the sense that a lot of people get the sense this will be a shootout. It'll be interesting to see how the Jets defense holds up, but EA, Zonovan Knight, 113 scrimmage yards last week, led the Jets. Will he lead the Jets again in scrimmage yards?
Well, since I'm battling all the sound here in this indoor venue, I'm going not today. Listen, we were just watching the receivers run some routes out here. Garrett Wilson, I think, is going to have a big day against this Vikings secondary. The Vikings give up more yards per play in the pass game than anybody in the National Football League. Watch Garrett Wilson have a big day. Watch Elijah Moore. Mike White threw for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. I think he's going to have another big day. Not to say that Bam Knight's not going to do some good things, but he's not going to lead the team in yards from scrimmage.
All right, so we got one all in and one not today. EA will check in with you in a minute for the inactives. Anthony Beck, TJ Hawkinson will have more receiving yards than former Vikings tight end and current Jets tight end Tyler Conklin.
It's amazing the confidence that folks have being in the rear like Caroline had. That's pretty exciting from a distance to be exciting. But back to the folks that are above 500, Listen, not today, man. I think this is a great opportunity for Conklin. He's home. There's a focus. There's a want. I'll bet you there's a trick player, too, for him. I expect him to have a big game, but Hawkinson has been a really valuable addition to the Vikings. Don't sleep on him, because you look at the past, what's really been tragic for defense versus the Jets defense is the tight end position, but not today. I like Conklin.
All right, Quincy, you did a great job last week. You called an Elijah Moore touchdown, his first of the season. EA considers it the best all in or not today selection of the year. But today, here's your question. Justin Jefferson averages 112 yards per game in receiving yards. Will he see triple digits?
So,
Uh-oh.
you know, I'm the champ, right? So I got a little bit of leeway. I could take a couple chances, right?
Flex on him.
I'm going to take a chance today, and let me tell you why.
So you're going not today?
I'm going not today.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. So Justin Jefferson has only had 2 games where he hasn't had 100 yards. One was against the Lions, and the other one was against the Cowboys. So my idea, my hope, my focus today is for the D-line to get a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins. That will allow the DBs to have a little bit more time and make sure that they shut down Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's going to get his. It doesn't matter what they do. He's going to get his, but I think that they're going to be able to stop them just like they did Stephon Diggs.
All right, well, so I like what you're saying there, because Stephon Diggs, the closest elite receiver against the Jets to get 100 yards. He had 93.
Right.
My all in or not today, the Jets will outscore the Vikings in the fourth quarter. This is going to be real quick. I'm going all in. I feel like the Vikings are due for maybe, not as high of a scoring game in the fourth quarter. I feel like the Jets come alive. The Jets defense is legit. Their strength in the secondary is the Vikings' strength in their outside receivers. And the fans, will Mike White throw for at least 275 passing yards? I think we all know where this is going. 85.5%. That's a little higher than Mike White's completion percentage from last week. Say all in. Oh, and there you have it. That was all in or not today. Let's go back out to Minnesota. It is past 11:30, which means the inactives are out. EA, who will be inactive for the New York Jets?
All right, Greens, let's rock and roll really quick here, because it's getting loud on the field here. Today's game day inactives for your New York Jets: Zach Wilson, Jeff Smith, Jeremy Ruckert, Ashton Davis, and Bryce Hall. Michael Carter, the running back who was doubtful during the week, is inactive. He won't play, so the load in that offensive backfield likely to be shared again by Bam Knight and Ty Johnson. Just want to reiterate the practice squad call up this week for the New York Jets: Hamza Nasruddin, the linebacker. I can't wait for this game. You guys enjoy it back in the studio. The Jets have an opportunity to get their 8th win, and I see a lot of the green and white faithful throughout the stadium right now.
Yeah, I see a number 10 jersey over EA's left shoulder. Maybe that's a Chad Pennington throwback. Okay. Regardless, that was the inactives, and we just want to end with this. Today is my cause, my cleats, right? The Jets will be honoring different causes, different organizations, and for the Jets, 6 coaches will be wearing these shoes to honor Coach Knapp, who played or who coached for the Jets for a little bit, a couple months before he tragically passed away. And so this is an awesome NFL campaign. 6 coaches, again, will be representing Coach Napper. And that's how we close out Pregame Central, presented by Bud Light. For Eric Allen, Caroline Hendershot, Anthony Becht, that's Quincy Enunwa. I'm Ethan Greenberg. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you after the game for Jets Overtime.